Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. Magic Origins is closing in and Wizards has started their 5 weeks of storyline articles. Each week they're going to focus on the origin story of one of the 5 planeswalkers in Magic Origins. Chandra Nalaar is the first of these. Enjoy the summary of her backstory, and if these are videos you enjoy seeing, remember to hit the like button. It lets us know what you want. Our story starts with Chandra and her parents in the city of Gairapur on the plain of Kaladesh. Her parents are great inventors, along with apparently many others in the city. The plane seems to run like clockwork, literally. Engineers, inventors, and all sorts of masters of metal seem to live in Gairapur. Just think of a city as one gigantic, ever-changing transformer, and you basically got it. Anyways, we learn quickly that Chandra is impulsive, impatient, and sometimes irresponsible. She gets into fights at school, she gets into fights literally anywhere else, you get the point. Because she isn't the inventor either of her parents are, she's decided to be a courier for their underground work. Aether is the fuel used by all inventors to power their machines, and it's regulated by the councils, basically the authority on Gairapur. Since they regulate it, trafficking it is super illegal. Surprise, surprise. Chandra's job is to be a courier. She has to take Aether from her parents and bring it to those who need it most. Pretty simple in theory. So she sets out on her quest to deliver some Aether. As impatient as ever, she tries to take a restricted path to avoid the clutter of the city. Consul's guards notice and stop her. When they question her, it's pretty obvious she isn't on the up and up, and they peg her as a trafficker of illegal items. Smartest guards ever. They try to reason with Chandra and get her to open her bag, but she isn't having any of it. She punches and elbows a few of the guards before being overwhelmed. It's at this moment that her rage has built up to unreasonable levels and her hands start glowing red from the inside out. All of a sudden, boom, her fists are on fire. Naturally, she freaks out. Not sure why the fire isn't burning her, she almost asked the guards to put it out, but none of them move. Realizing the situation she's in, she books it, running away from the guards as fast as she can through the city. The guards proceed to send what are known as Roterothopters after her. Since they're flying machines and Chandra isn't a flying machine, it's pretty easy for the little metal menaces to keep up with her. Eventually, she runs into Mrs. Pashiri, the woman the Aether she's carrying is meant for. Chandra notices that Pashiri is standing outside of a consul's foundry holding a ring of keys to that very building. Not sure whether or not to trust the woman, she isn't really given much choice. Pashiri distracts the Thopters while Chandra escapes into the consul's foundry. Talk about hiding in plain sight. In case you didn't know, foundries are essentially factories for building automatons, mostly humanoid robots. Anyway, Chandra is quickly caught again by one of the Thopters that gets past her friend outside. Alerting other machines to the situation, the foundry becomes more of a tomb than a refuge as metal constructs start coming to life to trap Chandra inside. This is about the time her fire fists show up again. She proceeds to fire punch robots, blowing them up from the inside out, utter destruction. While she has no control over her ability, it is currently saving her life. Long story short, she basically destroys the foundry and anything that could possibly harm her by blowing up the can of Aether on her back with her fire. Chandra might actually be the worst courier ever. After the explosion, she runs home and tells her parents about what happened. They tell her that she's a pyromancer and that the consuls aren't going to be happy about that since her magic isn't technological in nature. She doesn't need Aether to use it, so the consuls can't control it, and that makes them super nervous. That night, Chandra is woken up by her mother. She's told to pack her things and get in a cart waiting outside. Her family flees the city knowing that it's no longer safe for Chandra there. They spend quite a while traveling from village to village, staying under the radar of the consul's Thopters and guards looking for them. In one of these villages, Chandra's father invents a remarkable device. It's a metal shoulder pad that turns excess energy into steam. In this particular case, it's meant to help Chandra control her power. Instead of her fire being chaotic and destructive, it will only manifest in a safe way as long as the metal pack stays attached to her. Sometime after this, the consul's troops, under the lead of a man named Captain Baral, find the town that the Nalaars are hiding out in. They surround the village and start harassing residents looking for Chandra. Her and her father distract the guards and make a break for the house they were staying at. They get to the house to find it on fire. Her mother's shawl is lying on the ground outside, burning. Chandra collapses and is unable to regain her composure. Captain Baral closes in to capture Chandra. Unfortunately, the steam pack is way too good at its job and Chandra's fire isn't coming out to protect her, just steam. Right at the last second, her father gets in between herself and Captain Baral. Pleading with the captain to take him instead, Chandra's father hopes to save his daughter. Baral stabs him in the gut with a knife. Quote, he glanced at Chandra for a moment and she saw his last emotion in his eyes. Not fear, but disappointment that he couldn't do better for her. He bent over, shuddering, and fell to the ground. In shock, Chandra is taken prisoner and is escorted by airship back to Gairapur. Very quickly, she's sentenced to execution by the councils. Being a pyromancer is too dangerous for them after all. She is shackled in the middle of a courtyard and her executioner, Captain Baral, a man who had been chasing her since she first decided to transport Aether illegally. She tries to free herself from her constraints but is unable to summon her fire. The vent pack could be the reason why, but she's lost her rage. Now she's only filled with sadness over her lost parents. Captain Baral begins to swing for Chandra's neck. In a moment, she remembers everything it means to be a pyromancer, everything it means to be herself, to be special. All this happens in the blink of an eye. Baral's blade closes in on Chandra's neck. Right as it's about to kill the young girl, she explodes. Coming from her, fire and smoke spread everywhere. Baral is knocked back instantly, Chandra's vent pack is melted completely, and the fire begins to consume her. As it radiates from her being, it creeps up her body all the way to her hair, replacing everything she is with a fire-laden version. Eyes, hair, everything. She is fire incarnate. In another instant, she opens her eyes to find the city gone. No executioner, no crowd watching her being executed, no Gairapur. She's in some kind of mountainous area now, surrounded by monks in robes wearing masks. She has absolutely no idea what's going on, so she tries to burn them alive because that's what pyromancers do. These monks are not affected by her fire at all. Try as she might, she can't kill them. Instead, one of the monks raises his hand and her fire diminishes. Our story ends with the monks welcoming her to wherever they are. I really hope they have a plan. Seriously, that's where the story ends. This next part is for those of you who have read Chandra's story up to this point. There were a lot of revisions made to her storyline in here. For those of you who haven't read The Purifying Fire, you're totally fine. But if you have, you'll notice a significant number of differences. We're going to touch on these really quickly just so you all know what's been changed. In the original story, Chandra's fire powers were forbidden by everyone, including her parents. Clearly not that way in the new version. Also, that law forbidding her magic, apparently that came from a new government after her city was lost in a recent war. No war in this story. Know what else isn't in this story? How she planeswalked the first time. When she was about to be pushed into an arranged marriage, she freaked out and exploded, killing basically everyone around her and causing the fire that killed her parents. Right before she's executed, she planeswalks. Now, to be fair, both stories are of her avoiding execution, but come on, very different paths to get there, am I right? In this story, she's running away from a scared majority who set a village on fire to find her. In the old story, she straight up murdered a ton of people. In all honesty, though, I can overlook a lot of this, but in the original story, her being provoked into starting the fire that killed her parents was a huge deal. Really big plot point. Interesting that didn't happen this time around. There were other minor changes here and there, but those are the biggest, I think. Anyways, let me know what you think about Chandra's lore. Do you like it, hate it, rather see Tybalt in Magic Origins? Didn't think so. Let me know how you feel in the comments and we'll talk about it. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic Origins spoiler information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.